Okay, I think we are live. All right. So today we are going to be doing a couple things. Let me make sure my scenes are all good. I need to make sure my display capture is set to the right page, and there we go, the right screen. Okay. So we're going to do a couple of things today. The first of which is going to be making some new materials, and we're going to make a couple new ones. Um, and they're both going to be basically wood materials. So we're going to make a wood floor and then a wood cabin siding. Now, I want to make note that the cabin up at staff row, up at the like boys men's staff row, if we look at it, it's made of these like panels running up and down, and they're very worn in the middle, so we'll have to account for that. And then it looks like there's some that are sideways here, but most of these are straight up and down. Um, so we'll have to account for that, but we still need wood panels for the floor, and these are probably going to be just like skinny pieces of wood, but they're going to be very worn as well. Now this is going to be different than what we see on the Med Lodge. So the Med Lodge is actually this sort of log cabin type structure, and we can see that there's actually these, um, you know, pieces of timber that are stacked upon each other. So we do have the vertical pieces of wood here, and then of course the first aid, um, you know, piece of wood there. But yeah, so I think I have another photo of the first aid building somewhere. I'll have to go look for it. Here's another side photo. That's more of the dike wall, which we'll probably utilize this photo to help us with the dike wall as well. But let me go search, uh, or maybe I'll search in a little bit. But the first thing we'll do is build a couple materials, and then we'll actually start laying down the foundation for the Med Lodge. So the first material I want to make is going to be a wood paneling for flooring. Now, I have actually already done this and I've proven it out, but I want to show you how I did it so that it makes sense for future videos, and we can kind of all understand what's going on. And so whenever I explain it, I can understand it better because typically whenever you teach things, they become more ingrained in your uh, knowledge bank. So, last time we talked, I think I was trying to add some like variation in our materials, and I didn't really do it the way that I remember watching it in a video. And so this time I went back, found the video, and then I ended up finding the material that I made that actually has the variation. It's actually a randomness value, which we see here. Randomness is actually a material that we get from, or it's actually a texture map that we get from the starter content. So if we search for like random, I think it's random. Maybe it's tiling. I can't remember what it's called, but essentially we did end up picking it out, or I did end up picking it out on a different session. And so yeah, it's just this micro variation random texture map. And what that does is it allows us to really add some randomness to our textures. And so, if you recall, the Handicraft Lodge has a pretty random facade on all the sides, and there's a lot of, undulation and maybe some scarring and random things like maybe a bear was tearing out the side of the wall, or like was scraping the side of the wall, or a tree scraped it, or something, or a Boy Scout hit it. So we're going to use this same technique in other materials, and we're going to just employ this randomness, and there's this micro variation alpha tiling that we'll use to kind of add that more natural looking randomness. And we can add that to a bunch of materials like grass, like dirt, rock, things like that, right? If you imagine the dike wall, it's very random. There's not a uniform sort of way that the dike wall is presented, um, unless there's like some sort of igneous, like magmatic, sort of pattern going on. But a lot of it's going to be due to erosion, and so that'll be random usually. So yeah, this is what's called a base material, and we can see it's made up of a number of different things. We have a few different comment blocks up here. We have our base color, we have our color variation, and you'll notice I actually used this for rock last time, so I'm going to redo this name so that we don't get confused for these groupings. Okay, so we have our base material color, which is going to be this import map. And of course, for this base material, we're looking at that painted concrete siding. And so what we're going to do is actually just import whatever base material texture we want that we download online, and we just put it into this 2D map. Usually, you're also going to be provided a specular map, which is essentially the inverse of shininess, and it provides a little more character to your texture. We then have an ORM map, which stands for ambient occlusion, uh, roughness, and then metallic. And so it's basically just a RGB matrix of those different values in this. And so I assigned those to the output node here, which is the base material that we're outputting. And then the last two things are going to be micro variation. So this is that randomness that I talked about, and we're going to manage that through a scalar here, a parameter called micro variation alpha tiling. And then finally, we have this flatness map, which is actually going to give us that texture that whenever we look at it, it's going to actually change depending on which way the light is hitting, and it's going to give it a lot more depth. So that's the flatness. So this is a base material, and I anticipate we're probably going to reuse this over and over and over and over again, and we're going to be putting in our own parameters for the different materials we want. So the first one we're going to do is a base floorboard for some wood. So I'm going to actually bring this over, and we're going to go to Polyhaven. And I actually already found this, and I really liked it. And I'll show you what I did. So I just typed in textures floor, and I scrolled down until I found a wood flooring that I really liked, that I thought would be really good for maybe uh, the floors that we would find in any of the cabins, and then of course maybe in the med lodge. So we're going to employ this for those areas. So I really liked this worn floor, this wood worn floor here. I thought this looked really good. It looked like it was very well used, and it kind of makes sense. Like, this looks amazing. Like, this is all rendered, right? This is basically Unreal or Blender. And this is going to be, I think, what I want to use for the Med Lodge, um, or any of the cabins. So, let me know in the chat here if you think maybe the floorings looked different, but I want to use that. So we have our base material. In order to make a new floor, all we have to do is go to our Polyhaven website. And by the way, if anyone is interested in maybe finding textures and letting me know what looks good, like, definitely search through the floors on polyhaven.com. And if there's like different textures or materials or 3D models you guys want to see in the game, like, I'll certainly do that. So what's really cool is you can download pretty much any type of file that's related to making this into a virtual, instance, whether that's in Blender, Photoshop, um, GIMP, or of course Unreal. I think Unity probably has one as well. So all these files are for those different um, those different products or different programs that we work in. So specifically for us, we want to just download the 2K version so that we're not overloading with too much texture. Eventually, we'll probably go 8K whenever I ship this product or ship this game for like production and have people play with it. But I already did this, and if we go to downloads, we'll see that I've already extracted it, and we're going to be given a diffuse a disk and a normal and a rough. So it's these four. And essentially we're just going to bring those into Unreal. And I already made a folder here within SPSR content, buildings, materials, and then wood worn floor. And we'll see these four things that I imported are wood floor display, the normal map, the roughness, and then the diffuse um, matrix. So yeah, it's pretty simple. We'll just use our base material, which I've already named base material. We'll right click it and we'll hit create new material instance. And then what we're given is a new material instance that looks like this. And we have these global parameters here that we've already grouped. And we'll see, we have the flatness, the tiling, the micro variation, and then we have the tints as well. And yeah, we actually already have everything we need. I've put those maps in the certain locations. So the normal, which is like how bumpy is it with, character and depth. The main texture, which is like the actual, base image of the model or of the texture, the ORM map, and the specular map. And then I just added a little bit of tinting here to make this, have a little more character. So then we just hit save, and now this is wood material instance. So I have this blank world here, and I loaded this up so that I can demonstrate what these materials might look like in a actually lit world. And so I'm just going to bring in a new, I think, shape, and I'll just bring in a cube here, and I'm going to move it up a little bit, and then let's go ahead and move this over. And we'll do four of them because we'll add a couple materials here. And I think this last one, we'll bring it over and maybe we'll flatten it because we want this one to be an example um, of our floor. And so then I'm also going to make it look more like a floor by bringing it out this way and then dropping it down. Okay. So let's go ahead and put the wood paneling, the floor paneling on this one. This is the wood MI. We're just going to drop it on there. Actually, this was flooring, so let's put it on this one. My bad. Okay, we'll put it there. And we can see these panels look pretty huge. And in fact, if we bring in a mannequin, we drop them down there, we can see these panels, these floor panels are way too big. Luckily, we have our material instance that we know how to change tiling on. I just showed you how to do that. So I'm going to bring over our material instance details. We're going to put that right here on the side. And we should be able to just change the tiling with this value here. And we'll get our wood flooring into a little more of a believable paneling. And I think that looks pretty good. That is very believable. It does look a little dark, I'm not going to lie. And so I'm actually going to bring this brightness up a little bit just by changing this tint. And see how as we raise the tint up, we can actually start to see how this is worn a little bit more. We can see that wear. Whereas whenever we were darker, it's kind of hard for that to come out. So I'm going to brighten this up quite a bit. And we're going to hit OK. And that looks much better in my opinion. I can see a lot more of this wear. And we might just add a little bit of randomness just so that everything isn't, you know, uh, too virtual. And I think that randomness looks pretty good. And then let's randomize the tint there. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So then that is going to be our flooring. And that is a material instance that we can drop down on pretty much anything, and it's going to look the same everywhere as long as those variables don't get changed. So that's pretty cool. All right, let's maybe make one more material instance, and we're going to go to Polyhaven, and we're going to do maybe some wood cabinets. So let's do a little bit of searching, and we'll do wood cabinet. And I say we're going to do wood cabinet because we probably have quite a bit of cabinets going on, or maybe it could be also the wood paneling inside, like the walls inside of the cabins. And I think this looks pretty good. That looks, I don't know, maybe a little too worn. We got wood floors, wood table, wooden gate. Those look too nice. Maybe wood planks as the wall. That looks a little too rough. Um, Wood cabinet worn long. Okay, we already looked at that. Ooh, this one's really rough. That could be um, maybe the wood planks for the tents, perhaps. I don't know. Um, we got weathered planks, dark wooden planks. Yeah, I don't really have any pictures of the inside of the cabins. Those would be pretty helpful if anybody has those. But yeah, I don't know. Let's maybe just drag one of these down and see what it looks like. Um, Maybe we'll do this wood peeling paint. I think this one looks pretty cool. I'm not sure where this will go, but maybe we could put this on some cabinets somewhere. So we'll download the 2K and let's just hit download. And then we'll go and extract it once that's finished downloading. Okay. We'll go to the file location. We'll hit extract all. All right, and so we get quite a bit of stuff here. Let's go into Unreal, and we're in materials, and let's call this wood worn paint, maybe, or worn painted wood. Okay, and then we're going to import all that is in that folder, that zip folder. Okay, so if we go back to our base material and we just right click it, we say create material instance. We're going to call this worn painted wood and then underscore mi so that we know it's a material instance. Worn painted wood mi. And we're going to put this in the worn painted wood. We'll say move here. And then we're just going to open up this material instance, and it just came up over on the right side here, or the left side here. Let me make this a little bit bigger. And if we open up details, then we can start making changes to the base material here, or the instance, the material instance. So we're going to check all those values because those are parameters we want to change. Okay, so our main texture is going to be updated here, and we're going to actually have to do that twice. And then we're going to put in our normal map, which always is looking like this, like pinkish purple. We're going to put the ORM in there. It's usually going to be yellow. And then we have a specular map, which is going to look, I think, like this one, I'm pretty sure. Right there. Okay. And that looks pretty good. I think we could probably change the tint. It does look a little bright, so let's darken this up a little bit. Maybe something like that. All right, we'll hit save, and then we'll go to our world, and we'll just drop that right on there and see what that looks like. I think that looks good, but it needs a little more character, so let's add just a little bit of flatness to it. And I'm going to bring this over here. We'll leave the details there. So let's add a little more flatness, and that'll be a little more flatness here. And that'll give us a little more of a look like the paint is actually peeling off. And maybe some variation just to give it a little more randomness. I think it looks pretty random to me. That looks pretty good. Might be a little bright still. Even more of a red hue. Yeah. So that's the basics of materials and custom materials. So yeah, we're going to use that in our cabins. All right, so let's actually save this world because I want to come back to it as a test world. So I'm going to actually change this to test materials. Chances are we're probably going to be demoing like other things eventually, like foliage and grass and maybe some buildings. And so we're going to use this one just for materials and see what they look like. That way we're not fussing with materials too much whenever we're in SPSR and we're working on other valuable things. And then this also renders a lot quicker than the SPSR world. And so it's easier for us to make changes and zoom around and do stuff like that. All right, so we're gonna actually start a new level, and we're gonna go basic, and we're gonna get started on the med lodge, the medic lodge, and my sister ended up sending me a awesome drawn picture of what the med lodge looked like, and we're going to actually import this into our game so that we can edit it directly. So the health lodge is going to get a very precise, layout here. So this is going to be fun. The first thing I'm going to do is actually open this up in paint.net. And I like paint.net because it allows me to make very small changes without a whole lot of overhead. Like I don't need, Photoshop because it's too complicated and has way too many things going on. So all we need to do is literally just grab this section. We're going to copy it, create a new file here, and that's going to conform to our size. And we see now that we have that table cropped out. We have a much more defined photo going on here. And then we're going to save this as Health Lodge. Drawing. All right. And we should be able to bring this directly into Unreal. So we're going to go to Buildings. We're going to create a new folder called Health Lodge. And then let's go ahead and import what we just created there. And we are now bringing in Abby's drawing into Unreal. Okay, so at this point, we need to get a very accurate measurement of how big the health lodge was. So we're going to use our awesome Google Earth. And remember, we're going to have to go previous to 2013 in order to find it because the health lodge was destroyed in the fire. And so we're going to go back in time. I think it was 2006 maybe it was really clear. I can't remember. Okay, 2013 was the really clear one. That's right, because they actually had to take aerial photos of the fire. So before that, though, it looks like maybe 2005, 2006 are going to be our best bet here. Maybe 2005. So this is the Health Lodge. Commissary is right here. And one thing of note is that it looks like they are on the same perpendicular plane. So we're going to keep note of that because whenever we start laying down assets for real in the game, these are going to have to look, very similar. So if you recall, there was like this walking path right here, sort of this cement bridge, and then there was sort of this awning in the front where there were a lot of hummingbirds and stuff. The flags were like right out front, not too far away. Um, and so, yeah, this should be the Health Lodge. And we need to make note of that awning, which is probably this little jut out right here. And then maybe from right here to right there is the size of the Med Lodge. Let's see if we can get a different view. Yeah, the 2011 photo looks terrible. And then, I don't know, maybe there was a little bit of charred stuff. We could figure out like what the side size was there. That's a possibility. 2018 looks awful. 2020, everything's pretty much cleaned up. So maybe 2013 here might be worth checking out. Like this might be a good size. Let's maybe compare the size to 2005 and then see if they measure the same distance. So I'm gonna go from like here to here, so like 8.8 maybe. Let's try that and hit done. And how far wide is this? Okay, it's definitely shorter. You know, we can always make it a little bit smaller, but it might be worth doing a little bit bigger. And then we'll just eyeball the awning, I think. But we'll do like 8.5. 8.5 meters um by let's see, maybe right there to right there. 8.5 by maybe 11.5. I think that would be good. So let's put our notes down. Health Lodge is 8.5 by 11.5 meters. All right, so 8.5 by 11.5. So now we're going to drop into Unreal and we're going to make sure we have these all selected. And then we're going to put down a cube. And let's go ahead and move it this way a little bit so we're not messing too much with the player start. And let's go ahead and get that moved onto a exact unit here. Snap size, let's see, and then reset ratio when you scale them. Snap to grid when you move them. Okay, so we need half. We're going to put that right there. So the line's right up on that block. All right, then we need, oops, let me snap to size. We'll do 0.5. So that's 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, and there we go. Okay, so that should be 7. And then I kind of want to change where this gizmo is located. I want to put it on the end here, but first let's make this a little flat. We need 8.5. Let's see if that gets us 8.5. Not quite. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. A little bit more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5. Okay, that seems about right. Let me change this snap to grid so that we get right there. Yeah, it looks about right. 8.5. Okay, and then we need by 11.5. So we're gonna make this by 11.5. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That might be right on 11.5. And if it's not obvious, I'm just counting these squares here, and these are all 1 meter. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 0.5. Okay, so this was the size of the health lodge as I have measured it from Google Earth. Okay, so this should be pretty simple. We should just be able to drag this right on top. And it kind of works, actually. That's not terrible. I think that'll do it. Actually, maybe not, because wait, is the doors? Okay, no, that won't work because like let's put the doors here. Basically, like let's see, the Manny would be going through the door right there. And so we need to rotate this image by 90 degrees. So I have never done that. Let me see if I could figure out how to do that. We'll go into our texture. Where did I put this? I put this in Health Lodge, didn't I? Let's open up our texture here. And I wonder if I can basically rotate this. Um, let's see. Is there a rotation option? Uh, if not, I think I should be able to rotate it in paint.net, which maybe I just use that. Um, maybe I use that for now, and then I figure out how to rotate this. So let's actually do that. Um, so I think we just take our image and we rotate clockwise by 90 degrees and rotate it by 180. Okay, and then let's save that, and we'll call that number 2. And we'll know that that's a difference, and then we can compare that just to make sure that what we're doing makes sense. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this, move it over so that we can compare them. So I'm really curious if this is going to be the fix. So we'll go to our content drawer, and we will import into current folder, and we'll import drawing 2. And we'll drop this on there, and we'll see if there's a difference. And I think that did it. Yeah, in this case, Manny is over here, and the front would be right there. So basically, yeah, I think that is probably it. So Manny is basically going to walk through one of these doors, right? And then Manny will go in there. So yeah, I think some of this I remember. Yeah, there was a desk, examine table, maybe a cot there. The quarantine room. I remember the quarantine room because that was where one of my buddies got um, meningitis or something, or maybe he got like sick from rafting on the Arkansas River. That's right. And then of course there was the left side of the health lodge and the coffee table, the couch. Yeah, I remember the TV there, and then I think the health um, um, person for the week would stay in this back room, and I think maybe my brother and maybe my sister stayed back here at some point whenever my mom was on staff as the camp nurse. But yeah, this is awesome. Good job, Abby. I appreciate you providing this for us. All right, so we're just going to leave this drawing here. We'll end up removing it at some point, but this is going to be our floor, and I'm not going to quite yet put the wood flooring that we made because we don't want to get rid of this before we put some walls down. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's put some walls down, and then we will add the log material on the outside of the walls because I just want to get some actual walls going as well before we put the logs in, and we can swap those out at some point later down the road. So We're going to go to our starter content and we'll do architecture and we'll just put down our handy dandy uh, 40 by 300 maybe. Let's take a gander at this image again. Health Lodge, Health Lodge. Right here. This was the one I took back in 2011. Someone sent me a Health Lodge not too long ago, and I have it right here. And I should have probably prepared this earlier, but let me pull up this photo. It actually looks like way better than this one. Okay, let me email it to myself because for some reason my share to Windows link is not working. So let me find my email. Okay, and then I will very strategically pull my email up on the side so you're not seeing my email. All right, and I am just saving this Health Lodge photo here, and let me go ahead and open up the SPSR folder, and here it is. Much better picture. In this picture, we can actually see where the doors were at. There were some benches up front. We can see the awning and maybe the angle that it was at. Of course, there was a chimney. I totally forgot about that. And yep, Abby, you put the fireplace in, so awesome. And then there's some picnic tables up front. There was another bench on the side over here. We can see the doors were kind of this white screen door. A window there, window up here, electrical box over here. So yeah, we got some pretty good detail that we can work from. So um, let's go ahead and put the walls down, like I said. One awesome thing here is I have a front on photo, and we'll actually be able to calculate this angle really well with a front facing photo like that. So I'm excited to use that protractor again. Oh yeah, so I wanted to figure out how tall of a wall we should use. This doesn't quite look like a square wall. I think we're going to use maybe the 300 by 400 and see what that gets us. So we're going to do the 3 meters by 4 meters. So we'll use this one. And let me actually turn on snapping to grid. And we'll put on 50. And let's try this again. And that also didn't snap on exactly where I wanted. Grid size 500, maybe it was 5. Can't remember. We need this to go very precise. Maybe not. Well, I don't know. That actually looks very precise. Huh. Okay. We're going to make this wall just a tiny bit smaller. And then move it over like that. Okay. And we'll just do our favorite alt drag. And we'll put that right up there. Do alt drag again. And make that smaller. Let's change the resize to something a little more smaller increments so we can get that right on where we want. And let's go one more down. There we go. And then we'll take these 3 and we'll just drag them with Alt and move them this way. And get that right on top. Perfecto. And we'll drag one of these over. Rotate that by 90. And then finish putting it in place. Excellent. We'll just copy that, drag it over, make another wall. And then we'll do the same here, but I think we'll try to line it up. And then we'll have to resize that like that. Okay, grab these three and I'll drag them over. Make sure they're spot on in the right spot. Right there, perfect. All right, and what's really nice is that this cabin, the health lodge was bisected like right in the middle. And so we're just going to alt drag this one more time, and we're going to put it right around there where Abby drew the line straight down. And yeah, it doesn't have to be exactly science, like exactly right on, but I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so let's see if we can then grab these two walls and drag those this way. And then this one, we're going to make a little bit smaller so that it just intersects the wall there. And do we have a little bit of intersection? I think we do. It might be like right button up next to it. That's fine. Okay, and then we will do the same thing here. Let's alt drag this way, make a bathroom. And then we'll make this a little bit bigger so it goes right into that wall. Looks like that is sticking out ever so slightly, but I'm on a different grid size, so let me make that just a tiny bit smaller. There we go. There's a little bit of an intersection, but that's fine, it's hidden. Let's drag this one over again, and we'll copy that because we'll have to put a door there. And we'll just make this a little bit bigger. Sweet. And then we'll drag this piece. That right about there. And resize this to, let's change the scaling size. Might drag this over ever so slightly. I can change this to be exactly right there. And let's just hide that by morphing that into the wall like that. And we'll drag this over. We're going to make the quarantine room. Okay. That's pretty accurate. And then the final wall, we'll drag over. Oops. Drag over there. There we go. Okay, I think that is everything. We will bring in our own furniture as well, and of course we'll cut out holes for some of the doors and some of the windows. We'll probably have to make separate instances of the walls in order to do that, so that we don't interfere with the rest of the walls because they're being, of course, reused multiple times here. But I think that looks pretty good. We can drop that drawing on here at any point, and that'll be fine. So for now, I'm actually going to get rid of the drawing, and let's just see what this looks like with our wood flooring that we made earlier. So that Health Lodge was Health Lodge 2. So we're going to get rid of that first one because we definitely don't want to use that. But then we're going to go to in our wood floor worn, and we're just going to drop that onto the floor like that. Cool. And let's go ahead and put, actually, we don't have any doors, so that's going to be hard. I was going to say let's put a mannequin in here and maybe walk around. I kind of want to do that for this side. Let's put a mannequin in here just because I want to check out how big this hallway is, in case it might be a little too small and we need to make this wall a little bit bigger. So in order to do that, we're going to go Window, we're going to go Content Outliner, and we're going to look at our player start, and we're going to move this to where the camera is located, and then we're just going to hit play, and it should just drop us right here. Yeah. Okay, so does this hallway seem reasonable? I think so. It's not like you can't walk through it. Yeah, I think that seems reasonable. Do the walls seem too high? Is then my next question. Do those walls need to be shortened at all, maybe? I think that looks fine. And the bathrooms, quarantine room, we'll put a cot in there maybe and see how big that is at one point, at some point. Okay, maybe we'll drop our drawing back onto the floor, and maybe we'll start cutting out some doors. So let's go ahead and do that. Um, so let's reference our photo. Look at this one, maybe. And it's very likely that the doors go maybe all the way to the top, and then there's like maybe 2 or 3 inches that drop down, that the wall is still there. And then the threshold will maybe leave just a little bit there to keep a threshold. But there's just 2 doors, this one and this one. And honestly, I'm not quite sure how to measure these doors, other than maybe like putting Manny in there and just making them, I don't know, like eyeballing it and saying the door should probably be that wide. The other thing we could do is maybe add our door that we downloaded. Ooh, I got an idea. Let's go to Fab and let's just see if we have a screen door, and we'll see if we can use that. Need 3D, and then make it free. See if we got any doors here, or screen doors rather. I think, of course, if there was a screen door, there was probably an extra door that functioned as more of the, lockable door, and it was probably made of wood. This looks a little too fancy, but maybe this one kind of looks more like a cabin door. Actually, it looks like a medieval dungeon door. I don't know about that. We could just do this typical white door. Um, that one doesn't look terrible, this white one. Not sure how much I like the handle on it though. Damage door. Yeah, I don't know what that is. Maybe not that one. Ooh, what is this? I like that. Yeah, maybe this one. Let's see if we can view this. Is it two-sided? It is two-sided. Hmm. Let's go ahead and add that to the project because that one looks pretty cool. And we'll see where it downloaded here in a second. It should pop up. There we go. And we'll just drop our door into the world. And it looks like the door is black. So we might have to edit this door. Why is that black? Let's see if we can open this up. Um, hmm, maybe it's still loading. I don't know. Oh, is it shaded? That might be the problem. Let's move it out. and we'll put some direct sunlight on it. Yeah, I think that was the problem. It was just shaded. Um, so if we rotate it, is that white too? Yeah, that shading is very intense. We'll have to deal with that because that's probably way too dark. But I think this is a good spot for the door, and honestly, that looks pretty good for size. It could be a little smaller, maybe. Let's just put Manny right up next to it. Drop in. Just put Manny up next to it. Maybe not. Maybe it doesn't need to get any smaller. Um, yeah, I think that's fine. One thing I do want to change is probably the height of these walls. These walls are probably just a little too tall. So let's go ahead and make that change. And to do that, I'm going to test this out, but I think we can do the outliner, and then we'll just select all of the walls, and then we'll just go to the sizing, and we'll just drop this down ever so slightly. Oh, that only selected that wall. That's not what I wanted. I want to select every single wall, and we'll use our gizmo here to make that change. And while we're doing that, I think we'll probably reference this door. It seems reasonable. We look at our image here. I think that's reasonable. You know, eye level would probably be like right there. Yeah, that's fine on the height of the walls. This door might be able to go down just a little bit. Okay, that is actually going under a little bit. We go up again. Okay, so that looks better. Yeah, honestly, I think that's good. I think that's good for the height of the walls. So we're going to put a door there. We're also going to put a door on the other side of this wall, over here for the other side. And Abby put the door about right there. I think that's good. And so we'll cut out 2 holes for that wall. And yeah, let's go ahead and do that. And maybe we'll add, well, let's go ahead and add these other doors while we have these doors about out here. So let's put one of the doors over here, about right there. And then we have another one for the bathroom. And these certainly could have been different doors for the internal, but for now, I think we're going to reuse this door size. And honestly, that looks pretty reasonable for a door size for the bathroom. I think that looks good. And then we needed 2 doors here because we have the bathroom on this side and then quarantine. So we'll just drag a new one over. Rotate that guy 90 degrees. And we'll try to eyeball this right into the center, I think is kind of what Abby was going for, maybe. And correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, Abby, but we'll put it right in the center like that. And we'll just do the same thing with this door on this side. Put it right in the center so they're right across from each other. All right, cool. Now we need to do some cutting. This is where it's going to get a little difficult, especially if we're going to have any part where we're kind of overlapping some of our walls. We may have to get a little special geometry here. Before I start cutting, I'm going to grab some more water. I will be right back. Okay, got my water. All right, so let's go try to do some cutting here. And I think we're gonna have to make a whole bunch of walls, unfortunately. So let's maybe select some of these walls and see. So that's one wall, that's one wall, that is basically two walls. Maybe three walls. Yeah, it's gonna be three walls. So we only want this to be basically one wall. So let's deal with that. How do we want to do this? Let's shorten this wall up and then move it over. And then, or we could make this one huge wall. And then we shorten this wall up. Kind of like that idea. Let's do that so that we're going to reduce the number of special walls that we need. And we can just cut this wall twice. Okay, sweet. Um, you know what? I just realized we have to delete that because we're gonna have to make a new wall anyways. So we'll go starter content, architecture. We'll use the 400 by 300, which I also just realized we're gonna have to resize anyways. But we're gonna call this, sorry, we're gonna duplicate it, and we're gonna call this uh, doors. And then I'm actually going to move this into the health lodge because we're going to probably only use this for the health lodge. So we're going to drag in the health lodge. We're going to say move here. And then let's copy this. And let's call this health lodge uh, 400 by 300. And I'm going to do this because we're probably going to duplicate this a few more times. And honestly, I'm realizing I probably should just duplicate all of the base architecture models or meshes and put them into the new folder for each building so that we don't have to keep going into the starter content architecture folder. So that's probably something I'll do later. But let's go ahead and get started here. So I actually need to know what this size is of the existing wall on the width here because we did edit that. So I'm going to go to details and we're going to click on this and that's going to be scale 0.875 by zero point 0.5. So let's change this to 0.875 by zero point 0.5 by 0.8125. So 0.8125. All right, so that's going to get us the exact height that we need. And we're going to move that up and then over and right there. And it should be exactly the same height. And then we're just going to move this over to where it's right on top of there. Okay, are we flush? I don't see any creases. That looks great. All right, we should be able to start cutting this out now. And so we're going to move Manny out of the way because we don't want to accidentally cut Manny. And then we go into our poly cut. And we'll go to modeling. Wait, was this poly cut? I always forget. Plane, plane cut? No, poly cut for sure. Yeah, poly cut. And to do a square, we're going to do 90 by 90. And then we're going to change this to a rectangle. And we're going to move this guy inward. And let's just bisect the wall here, make sure we're, there we go. And I think this was also by 90. Maybe. Am I selecting the right asset? Oh, I am. There we go. So we can see. There it is. And then we need to change the width and the height. Oh my gosh. Do I have this right? Let me try this at 90. Maybe that was right. I'm still trying to understand how this polycut works. I'm getting there, but very slowly. Um, yeah, the height. mm, okay, maybe this needs to go like right there. The width though is what, like the width this way is what I care about. Hmm. Maybe one of these needs to be changed. Oh, there we go. That's exactly what we want. And then we can change the height and the width this way. There we go. Oh, that looks great. I think that might be it. Yeah, we'll do 108 by 232. How about that? Okay, so let's accept that, and then let's delete that door, and then let's play. Actually, let me change the camera start, and we will go into selection, go to our outliner. Let's just see what this looks like up close with the player start. Player start to camera, and then play from here. Yes, that is a door if I've ever seen one. Cool. So let's do the same thing on this door. And since we have polycut already used, well, not mesh paint, but modeling. Since we already have polycut used, we should be able to just reuse that same size, the 108 by 232. So I can't remember, were these all 390? Let's see. No, just the last two were 90. Then we need to rotate this by, no. But just the first one was 90. Okay, good to know. And that should be at the same level, which is basically like right at the bottom. So we're gonna accept that. So that's 90 on the first one. That's what I need to remember. And then we should be able to delete that door. And now we got two congruent uh, doors. Yeah. Do that over here as well. So we're gonna polycut this. And actually, no, we're not gonna polycut this. We're gonna make this its own door, its own wall first. So I wonder if there's a way to swap it out. Go from here, visibility, transform, snapping, pivot, edit, browse to asset, place actor, replace selected actor with Yeah, so we can do that. Copy properties and then maybe replace with another wall. So let me try that. Um, we have our health lodge wall here. We're going to duplicate this. We're going to call this health lodge right bathroom. And then let's go replace selected actor with health lodge right bathroom. And we'll copy the properties. We'll go static mesh and let's see if that'll swap that out for us. Okay, we just did that. Let's then ask it, if we browse the asset, does it change it? It looks like it does. Okay, sweet. So that is a cheat code that I just found out, where I don't have to place the wall. I can just hit replace. Like I don't have to replace it manually. I can do it by going to options, hitting copy properties, and then selecting the newly instance wall that won't interfere with the other walls. Now I'm doing this because it won't interfere with the other walls whenever I go to cut it. Because if I cut this one asset, then it's going to cut all the other walls in the same exact way. And I don't want that. I want this wall to be its own thing. So we'll go modeling, model, polycut, change this to 90, and then move that into place. And actually, I need to also rotate this one by 90, right? Because this wall is in a different plane than our door wall was, right? So maybe we'll get this right in there. Right there. Julio. Accept that. And then let's delete that. Do the same here. We will call this duplicate and then health lodge. Health lodge right for we'll hit this wall, say replace selected actor with health lodge right quarantine, and then the static mesh. And then we'll do a polycut on that. I think that, no, that's right. We need to go here, here. I definitely forgot to take note of which ones we are manipulating there. And that's, for some reason, that's 75. We want that at 90. Okay, let's actually leave that. And let's take this off. Okay, we'll do these 290. I think that is what we want. Yes. Perfect. Let's snap this to grid. Get that right above the floor. Right there. Make sure this is centered where we want it. Yeah, maybe there. And we'll accept that, and let's remove that door. And we have two more to do. And luckily this is its own wall, so we're going to call this Health Lodge left back room. And then hit replace selected actor with health lodge left back room, static mesh. And then polycut, and this one we should be able to just do 90 degrees there because we've already manipulated this one of these walls on this plane of existence. We'll drop that down to it's flush with the floor. Looks like it's a little low. Okay. And then just center it up where we got our door. And then we'll accept that. All right, last one, and we'll call this Health Lodge left. We'll replace selected actor, copy properties, whoops. Copy properties, Health Lodge left bathroom, static mesh. And then one more polycut, and that is going to be 90 here, and I think 90 on this one. Yes. Try to center that on where we put the door. Make sure we're not cutting through the floor. Nice. And let's just move that a little bit to the right so we have a little bit of wiggle room on the wall there. And we'll accept that. And let's just delete both of these doors. And booyah, we have all of our rooms. So just play this. See what this looks like. Let me move some stuff around so that you can see a little better. All right. And there we go. We have the foundation of the Health Lodge. Sweet. We still need windows, which we can keep going on this for sure. I think this is pretty fun. I like this a lot. Um, we could probably go ahead and add some stuff in here to make it look a little more believable. I want to go ahead and put the floor and the wood walls on here. So let's drop the wood flooring that we made. And we have the material. We call this Handicraft Lodge. No, that's Handicraft Lodge. We need Health Lodge. Buildings, Health Lodge. Okay, we didn't put the wood in here yet, so um, let's maybe duplicate this, and we'll say Health Lodge, and then we'll move that into the Health Lodge. All right, so this material instance is now the floor for the Health Lodge. Cool. Now let's make a new material instance for the walls, and let's go find a new one from Polyhaven. We'll call this wood wall, cabinet worn long. This might be sufficient. I again don't really know what the walls. I can't remember what the walls look like in the med lodge, but these might be good too. Let's maybe try this and see. So I'll go ahead and download this one, and this was called Wood Shutter. And so we'll jump into our downloads folder, and we'll go ahead and extract the wood shutter. And then in Unreal, let's go ahead and save this world before we lose it. We'll go buildings, health lodge. We'll call this health lodge. Definitely put health ledge. Save current level as health lodge. And then let's go to our test level. What was this called? Test materials. And let's go ahead and make a new wall. And let's just see what this wall might look like. Yeah, we can just drag one of these in. See what it will look like in comparison to this floor. All right, so for that, we're going to go to Health Lodge, and we're going to create a new, actually, we need to go to Materials, and we need a duplicate base material. We'll call this Health Lodge Wall. Maybe we'll call this Inside Wall, just to have a distinction. So Health Lodge, Inside Wall, um, and I just realized this needs to be a material instance, so I'm going to delete that. So instead of base material, we'll click create material instance. And we'll call this health lodge inside wall. Lodge inside wall. We'll move this into health lodge. And then we'll open that up. And in our details, we're going to start changing some stuff. For our parameters here, we'll select all these. And let's create a new folder in our health lodge called materials. And then we'll import what we just extracted in our downloads from the wood shutter. Grab all those, import those into Unreal, and then drop them into the locations that they belong. This is my favorite part. It starts looking more and more like what you downloaded. I think we need this one here. Okay, we did ORM. Awesome. So let's change a little bit of the tinting going on, and I want to keep a brown color going. That looks great. Let's change our tiling. Make something a little bit smaller. Something like that. Okay. And make sure our specular map looks good. Awesome. That looks amazing. All right, health lodge inside wall, and then we're gonna just add that to our test wall here. Health lodge inside wall. Boom. So that is gonna be the wall. I sort of want the wall to have these running parallel to the Earth, basically. So like I want them going horizontal. But let's see what they look like vertical. They might be fine vertical. Okay, so we're gonna save this level because that's a good test. We're gonna open our health lodge back. Where did you go? Health lodge, health lodge, health lodge. I do not see it. Was it in levels? Uh, where did this go? the heck? Could it be in buildings? Species content? Yeah, okay, maybe I did do that. Okay, so almost got scared there that I lost all my progress, but okay. So now we want to put our material that we just made for the health lodge for the walls. We're gonna have to do this on pretty much every piece. And I think we should be able to just go to our outliner and then basically select all these walls. And then let's see if we can drop this wall on one of them and if it'll do all. Okay, it won't do all. The other option would be going to details and then I think there's a way to put this on physics override, paint texture, maybe mesh paint texture. Might be it. Let's try that. Let's put it down there. Nope, it's red. That doesn't like that. Physics material override, so that's collision. That's not it. Static mesh, maybe? Doesn't seem right though. No, doesn't like that either. What if I select one of these walls? Okay, it's under materials. So that is what we got to find in the outliner is the materials. So let's select all these again and then go to materials and there it is. Display two materials. Okay, so then we want to basically change that there and it should combine all of those. Awesome, it definitely does. And we'll do that on the doors. Hello, put it on the doors. There we go. Sweet. All right, we are loaded up with walls. Wow, you can definitely see the repetition going on in some of this wall paneling here. So I think what I want to do is maybe add a little more randomness. So I'm going to double click the inside health lodge wall and I'm going to move that out of the way. And we have our details here for our paneling. And remember, we can change the tiling as we see fit. Because this is a material instance, we can make the tiling super small where you can't see them, or we can make it a little bit bigger. So something like that, I think, would look fine. Let's also change maybe the micro variation alpha tiling to give it a little more randomness, and then maybe change the tint of the variation just to give it some more character. And then we'll change the flatness so it looks a little more depth. Like it has a little more depth. Yeah, maybe that. That looks good. Okay, I see a little bit of clipping there. It seems like there might be a little bit of an overlap with these walls, so I'm just going to fix that up really quick. And I'm going to shut off that so I can get it precise. So close. Okay, that looks a lot better. All right, so if we play this, does this look believable as the inside? I think so. Those planks look pretty reasonable in size. for the walls and then for the floor. And it kind of has that dark woody texture that I think seems pretty believable. Of course, once we add like a bunch of assets in here, it's going to really start popping off and looking a lot better. Um, let's go ahead and add a couple windows, and then for the doors, we might just hold off for a little bit because I want to actually I want to end up building some doors that are something that you can actually open up as you interact with the world. And I need to do some more research on how to like move doors, whether it's automatically whenever you hit the door, it kind of opens for you, or you have to like actually action the door with an animation of some kind. So I'm gonna dig into that, but we're gonna leave the doors off, I think, for now. Um, let's add the windows. So remember, we still have our Abbey drawing, so we're gonna add that back as the floor so that we know where the windows are at. I think there was a window right up front, and in fact, we can corroborate that with this photo. I don't know if that was a window there, but we certainly have this big square window right here. So let's go ahead and add the big square window, and then we will take a look at the drawing and see if there was maybe another window there on the other side here in a sec. So we'll move Manny out of the way so we don't slice him up. And we'll go to our oh, okay, so we're gonna have to make a duplicate wall here. So we're gonna call this Health Lodge front window. And then we'll go in here and we'll say replace selected actor with Health Lodge front window, static mesh. And of course, it got rid of um, our mesh there, or our texture that we had on there. That's fine. And we can always add it back. And so now we're going to go to modeling. We're going to cut out a big square. So we're going to change this to square. We're going to rotate this up by 90 degrees. And then we're going to put this right into place. And let's just reference our photo. That over there so we can see this a little clearer. Let me see how big this is going to be. And it really is like a pretty dominant window over here. I'd say we could probably bump the width to like 150 maybe, and then just center it. I think that is probably suitable. Maybe even like 160. Yeah, I think that will probably do. Something like that. We'll go with that. And if that's too big, then we can always change it later. But let's go to Fab and see if we have any windows, like big square windows. And we really just need the outside frame. And it looks like a pretty good window according to the photo. Like it has a lot of reflection properties and it's got this pretty good outline. So we could probably get away with any one of these, honestly. Like something like this would probably be fine. We just would cut out the square portion. Let's add this to project and let's just throw it in here. We might cut it out at a different date, like a different session, just so that we can like let it um, grow on us a little bit. If we don't like it, we can always swap it out. But let's go ahead and move it into place. And then we also need to make it just a little bit bigger. Wow, I actually sized that like really, really well, all by eyes. Uh, nice. And could just be a little bit bigger in this direction. And let's move it down ever so slightly. There we go. I really actually like this window already because you can see through it. But of course, it's not going to be true because this is just one window pane, I'm assuming. So, but let's just leave that for now. It's not terrible, but we'll make a window pane out of it. All right, let's add a roof. And this is going to be a fun part because we actually have a pretty accurate um, angle of the roof that we can deal with here. We could calculate what this angle is up here, so it looks very accurate. So to do that, we're going to go back to our online protractor. And remember, I used this for the men's cabin um, up in Staff Row, but since we have a straight on photo of this health lodge, then this might be pretty easy. So looks like our photo is a little out of frame, so let's get this into frame. Okay, and then we will rotate. I think I can actually rotate this. There we go. And then we'll drag this over, get this right in line with that, and that's great. Okay, and then about where they intersect is going to be maybe right there. And then we should be able to access this angle here. 25 degrees maybe is what I'm seeing. We can change the protractor size. Rotate protractor radius. Yes. So let's take this down to like 200. And yeah, that looks about like 25, maybe. I'd say so. Okay. So 25 degrees, that's pretty typical for these roofs that we've found so far, anywhere between like 15 and like 35 is probably fine. What I'm noticing is that for some of the bigger buildings, the angles are a little shallower. They're going to be more like the 15 degrees. So like the admin building's pretty big. That angle's pretty small, right? I think it was only 15. And then the commissary is like super low angle, right? And it's actually more of just like a big bow, like the roof is kind of bowed in, and there's really not much of an angle. So um, all right, so we have 25 degrees. So let's drag out a um, architecture, and we'll call this. Honestly, we just need a wall, I think. So let's just drag a wall out, and let's just make that a little bit smaller so we can make a roof out of it. And then we know what our angle is. And let's manually put this in because I want to be very precise. And this is on the red rotation, so we're going to put 25. Oh, no, that is going to be, what is that, 90 minus 25? So the um, difference is going to be 65. There we go. So that's more like it. And then we will put that right into place. And how much of an overhang is there? I'd say like maybe a foot or foot and a half, perhaps. So honestly, I could probably calculate it, but I might just eyeball it for now. And remember, we will also be putting some logs on the outside to make this, like, we're going to get rid of this paneling on the front, on the outside, or rather, we're going to cover it with logs, different layers of logs, so that it looks a lot more believable as a health lodge. Okay, and then let's just drop this right up there. Cool, I think that's probably good. And then let's just extend this up till about there. And we'll end up having an overlap with the other side. I'm gonna get rid of that so we can see full. Okay. And then we'll just drag this over, make multiple of these. And before I do that, I'm gonna actually snap to grid so that we have a little bit easier of a time moving this. There we go. And we shouldn't have gotten any overlap, but I just want to check. Okay, yeah, no overlap. And we'll do this one more time. Cool. That is perfect, actually. Those look great. I didn't even have to resize those. And let's just move them all over like one click. And that looks pretty even with that, not too far off. Okay, and we'll just drag all these over again and then do a quick 90 degrees or 180 degrees. Yeah, so I'll have to resize these, so I want to make sure that makes sense. Okay, and then we'll just move these over till they line up with the other side. Awesome. Recall that there's going to be an awning over here as well, so this side is important, but remember we'll have to add a whole bunch more on the side there, so keep that in mind. All right, so let's basically put this down till we intersect with that, and same with these. We're gonna shorten this up till we get an intersection right there. Nice. And that apex looks pretty good, but I am shooting for perfection, so I'm gonna actually snap to grid, and actually we're gonna take off snap to grid so that we can really get a very precise touch there. Same with this side, and we do want just a little bit of overlap, about like that. I think that'll do. Oh, I think I forgot to select those two. Boy. Oh, okay, there we go. Cool. All right, let's look at the picture again and realize that we have some shingles up here. I don't know what type of shingles they are. They could be wood. I want to say that they're wooden shingles. I don't think my other photo has, no, my other photo does not have shingles in it. Because I think this building was like one of the original buildings from like the 60s maybe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is wood shingles. Um, so let's go see if the fab even knows what wood shingles are, because that sounds like something very old. Um, so we'll look for shingles. And that's funny because most of those shingles right there that we were just looking at were wood. Nice. So none of them are free, but wooden roof shingles. This might be perfect. It's definitely $1. Um, let's just search specifically for wooden roof shingles. And we'll keep it free. And let's go to 3D and we'll look at architecture. I don't see, just don't see any. So I know I usually go for free stuff, but I think I might buy those because those wood shingles look pretty cool. Let me just search a couple more. Um, wood roof shingles. These look good, but honestly, these look more worn, which is kind of what I'm going for. So I think I might purchase these for $1. We have this other pack, and we have all these different colors, but these look a little more cartoonish, and I'm not too crazy about them. So I'm going to buy this one for personal use, and I'm going to move this over to another screen so you don't accidentally see any of my payment information. And I'm buying an entire roof for $1. Ooh, okay. My girlfriend is giving me a call, so I'm gonna pause the stream, but I will be back on no matter how late it is because I want to get this finished tonight. So I will be back. I'll see you guys in a little bit.